Delta International is a listed property fund that plays in the Pan-African space. Delta International is listed on the Bermuda Stock Exchange as a primary listing and has a secondary listing on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. As purely an income fund, Delta International invests in real estate assets across Africa. Delta International has 3 office buildings in Mozambique, and it also owns a shopping center in Morocco. What Delta International does, it earns dollar income in Africa, specifically in Mozambique, although in Morocco it's earned in dirham converted to dollar. We then provide a dollar income return to an investor into Delta International. Investors can access Delta International either via Bermuda as a dollar purchase, or a South African investor wanting to get into the dollar market can buy on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange a rand investment that is actually priced in dollar. The underpin in Delta International is dollar-based income, so it creates a perfect rand hedge for anybody wanting to invest in Africa. The assets in Mozambique, it's the Vodacom building. It's a single-tenanted building on a long-term lease with Vodacom. The other building is the Anadarko building. It's a New York Stock Exchange listed oil and gas company, also single-tenanted by Anadarko on a long-term lease. And the third building is the Hollard/KPMG building. There's multinational tenants in that building. It also includes BP and Barclays. So all those tenants pay in dollar. Their leases are dollar-based. If we then look at Morocco, we own a shopping center called Anfa Place. It's situated in the wealthiest suburb of Casablanca. There are only 2 shopping centers in Casablanca, this being the second largest one. So as such, Delta International looks at a forward yield of about 7.8% on a dollar return. If you look at other dollar yields in the world, if you look at dollar bonds issued by African sovereigns, a 7.8 forward yield is quite an attractive yield to invest in. So if you look at Delta International's investments into Africa, the mall in Casablanca follows the consumer story as we see it in Africa. The office buildings in Mozambique follow what we then call the commodity story in Africa. If you look at the commodity story in Africa, if you look at Nigeria and Ghana, there's a big oil underpin. If you look at Angola, once again, another big oil underpin. We also currently looking at Zambia, where there's the copper underpin. So the one part of Delta International is to follow multinational companies that are following the commodity story. Obviously, as they invest in these countries, they are going to require office space, etc., etc. And we then look at acquiring those deals where a building is occupied by an oil and gas company or by a copper commodity multinational. The other side of the play is the consumer story. Everybody in the past 10 years have been talking about Africa in terms of Africa being the commodity story, but I believe Africa is also the consumer story. There's a burgeoning middle class that's developing in Africa, and these people want to spend. So that's why our investment in Casablanca follows the consumer story. If you look at Morocco, 75% of the population is middle class. The GDP per capita is nearly $4,500 per annum, which is a lot higher than most African countries. So looking at Casablanca, Morocco specifically, we are following the consumer story. We are looking at growing our business in West Africa and potentially in Angola as well. And that again follows the commodity story, the oil underpin, the fact that those economies become dollarized. And that provides a hard currency play that investors can look at.